Welcome to the DLLS Rangers Weekly Podcast, now part of the All City Network. Hit the subscribe button for YouTube and also become a DLLS diehard at www.alldlls.com. Now here's Jeff and John. Hey everybody, and welcome to the DLLS Rangers Weekly Podcast. This is episode number 23, and today Texas Rangers General Manager Ross Fenstermaker is going to join us. But first, we got to thank Premier Properties, who has sponsored us for our spring training. This is the last week of spring training. We head into the regular season next week. Big thanks to Karen and Jay for doing what they do for us every spring training. Premier Properties, if you want to go to the website, it's swdallasrealty.com. That's SW like Southwest, DallasRealty.com. We do property management, buying, selling. I'll help you tell you what your home's worth. We're doing a sell and stay program. Jeff, you're up here a lot. We do have a little studio in the back, but we can't thank those guys enough.
Yeah, whatever little I can do to help them, I'm always glad to do it, and because they've helped us so much here the last few years, and we couldn't do it without them, honestly. And look, if you need someplace to live, or you want to sell your property, these guys are going to help you do it. So, Premier Properties, they're over there in Duncanville off of Main Street. But John, you guys manage properties all around, so don't be afraid by the location. If you have something you need to get done, Jay, Aaron, and John are your people.
Yeah, and listen, we've got investors all over the world. I got one that lives in Australia right now, people all over the country. If you're a real estate investor, you got questions, give me a call anytime. But listen, they're the sponsor. This is spring training. We're talking about the Texas Rangers. We're winding it down. You did your last roster prediction. I want to get into that and some of the guys you see making this team heading into next week. Maybe next week, maybe we can look at doing some predictions for the season. But, Jacob deGrom goes yesterday. You said Kamara's going tonight. You're in Arizona for the last time. You always go there to end it out when the final roster cuts are made. We were there for Jacob's first start. Then he made another one, and then where he did a backfield thing. Well, then he did this one last night. There's nothing better in the world than talking to Jacob deGrom, not only healthy, but to hear him. I mean, look, last night he was touching 94 to 96. He wasn't really bringing it. Wasn't an arm issue. Wasn't fatigue, anything like that. But to listen to him break down a start, I was pulling off to that left side. Everything I'm watching on TV is exactly what he's talking about. He's just amazing to listen to.
There's a reason why he's the best pitcher in the world, because he knows his mechanics. He knows his body. He's completely and utterly unhappy with 57 pitches in 4 innings. He gave up, 3 or 4 hits. I don't remember. 2 runs. Walked a couple, but he in his, he said he warmed up great, and then he got to the mound and something happened, and it was something that seemed so small, his landing foot. He couldn't get it where he wanted. And
wasn't landing right.
And so all of a sudden he's flying open and all this stuff, and it sounds like he's throwing the ball over the ballpark, but he's right around the plate. He's just missing, and I'm telling you, other pitchers would take that every day of the week.
Absolutely.
But he has set such a high bar for himself with the 2 Cy Youngs, and then the way he pitched in 21 despite being injured. He went half the season with an ERA below 1. I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
So he wants to be great, and for him, great is Cy Young. And so when he goes out and doesn't have his mechanics, then he's got things to work on. And it'll happen during the regular season. If he gives up 4 runs, you're like, God dang, what the heck happened? The velocity was down because his mechanics were screwy, so he didn't want to risk hurting himself. So he just within 4 innings and within the 4-minute conversation we had with him, he broke things completely down. But the thing he mentioned a couple times is he feels good. He's healthy, and that's number one.
And let me just
all the crap the Rangers are going through.
And let me put your mind at ease, guys. 94 to 96 is not because of arm fatigue or anything. I'm telling you right now, Jacob deGrom can throw the ball 100 miles an hour any pitch he wants to. He is trying to control. He said it. He said, hey, my best 2 years, he goes, I wasn't hitting 100 every time. I stayed below 100 all season. I'd rather have more accuracy with where I'm going and doing that. He's just working on stuff. He knows. I think Justin Verlander used to say it. It was fantastic when he would be hitting 94 to 95, and he'd go, I've got that all night long, but I've got 99 in my back pocket. And Jacob deGrom is the same thing. I've got 100 miles an hour in my back pocket, but I don't have to run it out there every time, especially when you're throwing now a curveball and you throw a changeup and you throw a slider to go along with sitting. And he's throwing 2 fastballs, 4 and a 2-seamer, right?
I don't know that he's throwing a 2-seamer. That's just
4-seamer.
That's Evaldi who's doing that. But it's 4 pitches that are all plus pitches. I mean, in the curveball, he barely uses it, and it's an unbelievable pitch. And really, when he's talked about the decrease in velocity, when he does step on it, that's like a 5th pitch, because it's just going to keep guys. It's one other thing they have to worry about. They don't know when it's coming, and they're not going to hit it especially when he puts it where he wants to. He got swings and misses yesterday. Don't get any false impression that he didn't. Guys were swinging and missing 96. All right. It's location, it's movement. Sure, there's velocity, but it's just the whole package. And the package wasn't as good. I mean, it's like maybe it's like I wrapped it. I don't know, but he was happy to get through it healthy, but there's more there. So he's got a bullpen session probably tomorrow or Saturday. He will then pitch Tuesday at Globe Life Field. In the exhibition against the Royals. That's a day game. And then he will pitch again. If all goes well, he's down to pitch that Sunday against the Red Sox to close out the season opening series. So I'm not too worried about Jacob deGrom. I know a lot of people are, and with good reason. He's making $40 million. He's been hurt, the past 5 years. But I don't have a lot of concern about that guy.
No, I don't either. And my point is I think people need to realize how special a guy this is. Just listening to him break down a start is just amazing. Look, all of them do. Don't get me wrong. Every good pitcher just can bring up the slightest thing where I was feeling off on this side or whatever. But I think the reason I'm so enamored with it is he has been injured. He's been so friendly to everybody to talk to him, but now he's actually breaking down a start really well, and it's fun to listen to a fully healthy Jacob deGrom and doing that. Okay, you did another 3.0 roster prediction.
Yeah.
It just came out on DLLS. It's ALLDLLS.com
for DLLS. That's right.
AllDLLS.com. On there, guys, they're running all kinds of great specials right now. $4 a month is basically a deal they're running right now. If you'll get on there and sign up, you get not just Rangers, you get it all. You get Dallas Stars, you get Dallas Cowboys, Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, and the Texas Rangers. Plus, there's some college stuff. Jeff does the stuff with TCU Horned Frogs. This is a great way and a cheap way to get all your DFW sports covered by beat writers, not just opinionated people. These are beat writers that are in those clubhouses, in those locker rooms, talking to players, and that have got credibility in this league. It's so easy to go do. Okay, now we got to break it down. Your rotation, you've got Jack Leiter and Hauser.
That's right. Just to recap, Cody Bradford and John Gray are going to be out for a while.
Sure. That means Kamar, no.
You need 2 spots. Yeah, I don't think Kamar Rocker is going to make the team. He's going to pitch tonight, and maybe he just dazzles. We'll ask Ross about him here in a little bit. But he just hasn't had a great spring. It seems like maybe it's gotten a little better each time, but I don't know that it's good enough right now. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't help out in April. The team signed Patrick Corbin the other day, Tuesday, and they're only paying him $1 million. If he's not very good, which has been the case for most of the last 5 seasons, then they can thank him for time served and send him on his way. We don't even know when he's going to be ready yet, but it's not going to be opening day. So that's why I have Adrian Hauser in there as well. I think when push comes to shove, if they don't feel like Rocker's the guy, then they're going to go with the most experienced guy. And Adrian Hauser is that. He didn't have a great year for the Mets last year. Not the first guy to ever have a bad year with the Mets, and but he's been really, really good at times for the Brewers earlier in his career. He was overshadowed basically by Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, and here was Adrian Hauser going out and making starts every fifth day and piling up the starts and doing really good things. So I think he will be in the rotation. They really like Patrick Murphy, who has bounced around a little bit, spent last year in Japan, has started and relieved the past several years, but he got stretched out to 3 2/3 innings the other night and was really, really good. He's only allowed 1 run this spring. Big fastball, 4 pitches. So, and pretty interesting. He talked about the impact Japan had on him. Hitters over there, they don't chase. They have great plate discipline, which forced him to rein in his arsenal and throw more strikes. Well, he's learning that his stuff plays pretty well in the strike zone, even in the major leagues. So that's an interesting name. I think I have him in the bullpen because the Rangers are going to need long help. So him and Dane Dunning, who hasn't been great this spring, but I think makes the team. And then
Dane's got options though too, right?
Yeah, and then the rest of the bullpen is Milner, Armstrong, Webb, Garcia, Chris Martin, and Luke Jackson, who was on our show recently, and who I just think he's been great. He's been really, really good. So that's the bullpen. But yeah, there's basically 4 spots that haven't been determined. I think Leiter and Dunning are safe. Go ahead and put them on the team, and then figure out those last 2.
And our last guy that was on was Mark Church too, and you don't have him making the team. But that's a guy right there that will be in the big leagues, and he will be up if he continues. He's had a great spring. Also, I think what he is right now, he is just. I mean, they've got a lot of arms that are doing good enough right now to open the season in the bullpen, and he's got the options to say, "Hey, start down at AAA while we." It's a longer look at some guys that don't have options. And there's a point where if they're not going to get it done and Mark Church is getting it, which I still say Mark Church he will contribute a lot to this big league club this year. I think he will. But he is one of those guys, Bochy talks about it, you talk about it, everyone talks about it. There are those guys that will be on quick flights between Round Rock and Texas when somebody spits the bit one night and you have to use all your arms and all of a sudden you got to bring somebody up and have a fresh arm and do all of that. And he unfortunately falls in that category where he may go up and down a few times.
Yeah. The injury last year really was a big factor. He had a nice camp, looked like he would be the first guy they called up, and he wasn't because he was hurt. And it kept him out a while as a lat injury. And, just go watch our last episode. He talks about it all. And sure. They're trying to protect him. The only time in Mark Church's career where he has thrown on back-to-back days was last spring. If you're going to be a big league reliever and you're going to pitch in high leverage situations, you got to be able to do that. So I would think that the Rangers might go a little easy on him here the first few weeks of the AAA season, and then the frequency with which he's used will step up, and then ultimately maybe he will go back-to-back. He's got closer stuff, guys. I mean, you're looking at a future Texas Rangers closer if he continues on this path.
Well, what you're looking at with your roster prediction right now is your 2 basic leverage guys seem to be right now. Luke Jackson and Chris Martin are kind of your back end leverage guys. That how Bochy plays with it, we'll see. They don't have a set closer right now, but I'm going to guess those 2 guys probably kind of fall more into that category. You think?
Yeah, and I think Robert Garcia, who had the nerve irritation, will to start camp will be in there. Jacob Webb maybe. Milner and Armstrong haven't been particularly great this spring, and they can get 6 outs. And the Rangers, depending on how the rotation shapes up, they may not want guys to go through a lineup 3 times. DeGrom and Molly are going to be watched carefully as they come off Tommy John surgery. So there's going to be a need for multiple inning relievers, and so I wouldn't really call him traditional long men, the guy who just sits around and doesn't pitch for 8 days until there's a blowout. these guys are going to pitch in roles, designed roles, on designated days, really. But you never know. Something might pop up and they might have to pitch sooner than expected. And that's when the wheels might start to come off the bullpen plan. You might have to go down and get somebody. But Church has been great this spring. Robbie Ahlstrom continues to do good things. I know he was sent out last week, but all of a sudden he pitched in an A game and pitched 1 2/3 scoreless. Mike Maddox loves him. Bruce Bochy loves him. He's another guy who'll be has the potential to be an early call up. It'll be interesting to ask Ross about Teodo, because Teodo really hasn't been stretched out. Are they grooming
it's been
him
one inning stand.
Are they grooming him to be a reliever? He has the potential to be a great starter. But guys on the 40-man need to be able to help the team in any way they can now, especially a team that expects to contend for another World Series. So there's no development. There are guys on the 40-man. I guess Winston Santos is kind of a development project, but you saw why, because he pitched so well the other day in the breakout game.
Yeah, 9 up, 9 down, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Teodo might be needed sooner, and if he can come in and be a multi-inning reliever, there's nothing wrong with a guy making his MLB debut like that. There are a lot of people who've done it before him, and with as good as it is, if he can help him out, and it's as a reliever, then if he's needed early, and Lord, before last week, the rotation was fine,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then all of a sudden it's not. So everything has been kind of tossed thrown for a loop. A lot of balls in the air, but they'll figure it out.
So let's go down to the position players. You have a couple that aren't making this team. One of them being Ezekiel Duran, who's not going to make this team. There was a lot of speculation going back and forth about Carter, because when I was there, it was kind of semi-hinted. It wasn't hinted. It's kind of the way you and I read the room, that if he didn't start to improve, that might be someone who had options that could go to AAA. You don't see that now, and he has improved in that. But talk about that, your position players.
Yeah, everybody knows the catchers will be Hyman and Higashioka. Starting infielders, it looks set with Young, Seager, Simeon, Berger. I do think, though, that because there is going to be a need for somebody to hit left-handers and play center field, that Kevin Pillar makes this team. And that spells trouble for Ezekiel Duran, who hasn't had a great spring. Bruce Bochy was asked about it a little bit more in depth yesterday, and Boch just thinks he's pressing and trying too hard. And he changed his swing in the offseason. He's taking at bats in minor league games when he's not in the Cactus League games. He's doing everything he can to get it straightened out. And Boch said, well, he may just need a couple of days off, and relax a little bit and stop pressing. So it's going to be hard to keep him on the roster. And another thing is, if you have to get at bats for Carter, Pillar, and Taveras, how the hell are you going to get at bats for Josh Smith? So there's a lot of, and that's going to be hard.
He's had a great spring.
You're not going to be able to get at bats for Duran then too. So there are ways to do it, I guess, but it would require giving guys days off who you don't want to have days off. So I just think that there's not a spot for Duran. Now, maybe the Rangers here in the last week, decide to find a trade for Leody Taveras or, do something. But I would expect that the bench will be Pillar, Taveras, the catcher, and Josh Smith.
So I'm assuming we'll just ask Ross Fenstermaker, and he'll tell us if he's got a deal working with Leo.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure he'll do it. I actually want to talk about a trade with him just now that it's over with. I always enjoy that. I like hearing the stories after the fact, because the Rangers, they never tell you what's going on ahead of time. They keep it close to the vest. So Nick Ahmed, he's not going to make the team. You don't think? You think he'll take an assignment, or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. He's a veteran guy. He's had a good spring, at least power wise. Plays great defense. I would imagine that he probably has an out on Sunday. I can't remember the classification of the player who gets the out automatically based on service time, but I'm sure that he is one of them. And I know Pilar is too. So I just, if Josh Smith had spit the bit, maybe you would go with a guy like Pilar or like Ahmed.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's been so overwhelmingly great, and Smith has not been good that you would have to make that decision. He's probably going to get an opportunity to go somewhere else, but we'll see how that plays out. But I didn't have him making the club.
This is the one. Well, I agree. I'm just saying this is a guy that shined at the beginning of spring for sure. He's a talented guy. He's got big league experience. If he doesn't get a job somewhere, you wonder if he would stay and take the AAA assignment. But let's be honest, the positions he plays are blocked at the big league level. 100%, all of them.
Yeah.
And the utility. Utility-wise, which is what he is, a utility guy. He's got not only Josh Smith ahead of him at the big league level, but he's got Ezekiel Duran, who's probably going to join him at AAA if he goes there. And that guy, if they're playing even, who the first call is. It's going to go to Duran. It's not going to go to Ahmed. But, I liked him. He was a nice guy talking to him. He had a good spring. I just wondered. That's a guy that might see a path to the big leagues with another organization in AAA. You know what I mean? There might be more open spots to go there. But I don't know. He was intriguing to me. He was a nice guy, and he had a decent spring.
Well, there could be opportunities for a major league deal, and the Rangers wouldn't stand in the way of that.
Matt Carpenter, I always talk about that one that happened.
Sure. There will be throughout baseball this last week people getting hurt and teams realizing that, oh man, this guy isn't going to work out. This isn't working. We need to go get somebody. And a guy like Nick Ahmed, he can definitely fill a need. There's no doubt about that.
And you know what else happens? A guy like that is also for a team that is not planning on competing this year, that maybe sees the writing, is like, we're probably not going to compete. And they really kind of thought this young kid was going to come up this year, go through spring, be ready to go and learn. And then maybe he just spit the bit and maybe the White Sox had someone that didn't do what they wanted. He needs a little more time at AAA. We'll send him and let's sign Nick Ahmed. He can come up and play at the big league level till we get him ready to roll. That, you always have that kind of stuff. I hope so. He was a good guy. That's why these guys try to take minor league deals when the big league deals aren't there. You perform like that, and hopefully it puts you in a position.
Yeah, and you have Jesse Chavez, who hasn't had a great spring numbers-wise. He's posted every time. He's a great clubhouse guy. JT Chargois, who hasn't pitched a ton this spring, but is another guy who has big league experience, and there are going to be some tough decisions, as they always say. The tough decisions, the tough conversations, and frankly, with tonight being a night game, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers have met already this morning and are going to lay out some more decisions. Tell guys they've made the team, maybe tell them they haven't. But the AAA season starts the day after the big league season this year. So guys that are going to AAA,
have to get settled.
Be kind of nice to know so they get a place to live.
Yeah, got to get settled, especially the married guys tonight. Hey, let's get Ross in here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Right, we're going to have Ross Fenstermaker is going to join us next. All right, guys, and joining us right now from Surprise, Arizona, where the Rangers are about to wrap up they're getting towards the end of spring training here. It's Texas Rangers General Manager Ross Fenstermaker, a fan of the show, and comes on here a lot. Ross, what's up, man?
How we doing, guys? Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ross is about a pitching wedge away from me right now in his office while I'm behind home plate in the stadium. It's a little warm in here, Ross. I think you made the right call by staying over there. Two might make things a little uncomfortable in here. So Anyway, thanks for taking the time. I know it's a night game, and you guys have a ton of decisions to make. We got minor league games starting here in a minute, but yeah, we really appreciate it. So the floor is yours. No, I'm kidding. I really wanted to talk about the minor leagues because that's a very important part, and you're still heavily involved in that. But I do want to talk about Jack Leiter, who technically is a rookie and still a prospect. Gosh, he's been let's say one of the pitching stars of camp.
He's had a good camp. Yeah. He really worked on some things this offseason, building on what he did the year prior, winning PCL pitcher of the year and getting a taste of the major leagues. But, added a two-seam to his arsenal this offseason, further refined this kick changeup that he's been throwing. And he's featured it quite a bit here in camp, but just been getting ahead of hitters, establishing the fastball, and then using kind of the diverse mix off of that to get guys out. And he's thrown the ball well. And it's been encouraging what we've seen. And we have some opportunity here for many guys to win spots in the rotation, and he's put himself well in that mix right now. So he's in a good spot, and we got a little bit more time here. Seems like it's running out with 7 days until we get back to Arlington and open against the Boston Red Sox. But Jack's had a good camp, and we're excited about where he's at.
What has made we saw him last year and the ups and downs he had, but I really think ever since the first day, he's just carried himself a little bit differently. It seems like he's been confident and feels like he belongs. Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to speak to that specifically. I think Jack's the only one that can really answer, but just the way that he's gone about it, there's a lot of unknowns when you get to the big leagues for the first time, and a clubhouse and personalities and just things that you learn. And once you get a little bit of that experience, you take it into the offseason, things you need to work on from a professional standpoint, but also just a familiarity with the guys in your day-to-day routine and knowing that you do belong with this group. And I think his talent is certainly on par with, some of the all of the players, quite frankly, the pitching staff that we have here. And it's just, further refining the kind of the other stuff that makes you feel like you belong amongst that group. And I think Jack is coming to the realization, like many pitchers do and many players do, that their talent is on par with the major leagues, and they're ready to go out and compete. And he's been in a good spot.
And then what are you guys seeing from Kumar, who had that good inter squad outing after a couple rough ones in the Cactus League? He pitches tonight. How is he progressing? Everybody comes at their own pace in spring training.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking forward to tonight. I think with him, he's had a very specific plan, the things that he wanted to accomplish in camp. And I think the results notwithstanding, each consecutive outing has been better and better in terms of the things that we're seeing. We had him go through some delivery analysis in our lab across the street and address a few things that maybe he needed to work on and accelerate that process. And the returns have been good so far. And Kamar's a pro. I understand it's, limited major league experience, but he's got a veteran mindset in terms of knowing what he needs to do to prepare for the season. He knows his body extremely well, and we're anticipating that we see more progress each and every outing, and as we get closer to breaking camp here.
All right, the star, without question, the best player in spring training, maybe the best player in the Cactus League. I feel good saying that, has been Alejandro Osuna. What a delight! It's been fun to watch him. The manager, Tony Beasley, absolutely love him. It's not like he's burst onto the scene. He was the minor league player of the year last year, but my gosh, how soon is he going to be in the major leagues, Ross? Let's do it. Let's do it next week.
Hey, let's give credit where credit due. Jeff and I have been talking about this guy for 3 years. We just watched him at every level. It's like, this Osuna kid, look at him. He is just hitting at every level coming up. Now, answer his question. Sorry.
Well, if you want to play the credit game, guys, we got to start with Hamilton Wise, who signed him from the Mochis out of Mexico back in the day. But he's been talking about him the longest of all of us. But no, Osuna's had an incredible camp. Not surprised in the least in terms of him winning our minor league player of the year. He was a finalist for our True Ranger Award as well, which exemplifies kind of the values and that we look for in our players. The way he plays the game, he's coming to camp, He's not fazed at all by this environment. Major league bloodlines, the nephew of a major leaguer, the brother of a major leaguer, like not fazed by this environment in the least. And he plays the game the right way. He plays the game that we want to see, and the talent speaks for itself. He's had a tremendous camp. He's impacted the baseball. He's played great defense. He's run the bases extremely well. I think the one thing that you appreciate about him when you see him on the field is the tenacity that he brings each and every day. Like the way that he plays the game, it's hard to explain. There isn't a second or third gear. It's really first to fourth and full gear at all times. And he plays the game the right way. He plays the game that we want our players to the way that we want our players to play. And I'm happy for him. He's put in a ton of work, and he's dealt with a few kind of weird freak injuries in the minor leagues that have held him out of competition at times, but he's positioned himself quite well to leave a favorable impression on all those that haven't seen him play before. And he's certainly on the radar when the time comes for a left-handed hitting outfielder in need at the major league level. Yeah,
it's just every spring you run into a guy who does something real nice and is a joy to talk to. His English is terrific, and he's very grateful and humble, and just somebody you want to, keep talking to. And so he's definitely the guy. But what a camp, And I think also Emiliano Teodo. A lot of people like Emiliano the way he carries himself. I've heard people describe him as funny. He's working on the English, and then that 100 miles per hour, that slider, that's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, he too has had he's obviously been optioned to the minor leagues, but could be recalled for injury or very early on in the season if there's a need. He's pitched extremely well. We've held him to more of a limited role. We'll probably expand that when he goes back to AAA, more of like a 3-ish innings, and entertain whether or not we continue the starter path or keep him shortened down as a potential option for the major league club. But 100-mile-an-hour sinkers and some of the best breaking stuff that we have in the system and the organization, quite frankly, is usually a good recipe to have success and put yourself on the map for the major league staff. And he's done a great job. He's pitched into games. He's thrown strikes. He's competed. He dealt with some adversity this offseason with some things that, we weren't quite certain how he would come into camp. But I think it speaks volumes to who he is as somebody who can prepare at a high level and the competitor that he is to come into a major league environment and really leave a favorable and fun impression. And I think you touched on it, Jeff. His personality, he's fearless, but he's also funny. He's got just a great way about him. And as his English continues to progress, I think we'll see more and more of his personality, which I know is a treat for all that get to interact with him.
Yeah. So you are now the general manager. How does that change your responsibilities with player development? Because they're Josh Bonifay, the farm director, and you guys hired Cole Figueroa for a role similar, I guess, to what you were doing last year. So what's the hierarchy look like here on the development side?
Yeah, well, the way that the title lays out, it's quite literal. It's more general management. Bonnie really runs the farm system day to day. He's got a tremendous group around him. Kenny Holmberg, Stosh Hoover, our coordinators beyond that. Sam Niedorf, very instrumental in the way that we do things. And quite frankly, have been for a while. I think the largest changes on my end have been more involvement with the major league team, more speaking to the major league team, working with CY, doing some of this in the past, but just more formalizing the structure of, negotiations with agents and, other teams in terms of trades, and just being able to divide and conquer a little bit and help take some things off his plate on that front. And with that is taking some things off my plate in the minor leagues, just giving Bonnie and the group free reign to kind of drive the day to day. I'm more of like, I'd like to say 30,000 foot view, but it's more like a 15,000 foot view. I'm hovering, but I'm not quite in the mix day to day. And I want to give those guys space, and they understand what's been built the last 3 years going into our 4th year together as a group of what we're ultimately trying to achieve. We have our key performance indicators. We have our value system. And quite frankly, I have the utmost trust that, if I were to vanish from the operation in its entirety, we would still be a well-oiled machine down there, just the way that those guys run things. So very happy and proud of the group that we have. And hopefully my 15,000 foot view allows the birds on the ground to spread their wings a little bit and fly. So,
okay. Before we get into a little more specific player stuff, what has taken place with Alejandro Rosario? Has he had the surgery yet? Is he still
not quite? No, we're still gathering additional information on that. He's seeing a couple specialists as it relates to the surgery, and we'll have more of a formal timeline here in the very near future. But no surgery yet on the elbow.
Okay. Well, he's one of our favorites. Just had him on the show a couple times.
Great kid.
Such an unbelievable kid. I doubt that he will have any problem compartmentalizing this or dealing with it and getting it right, because it just seems like we always talk about how good these guys are. He's like the best of the best. Just hoping for the best for him, and getting him back on the mound is
if you don't mind, it's a quick story about him. And obviously, like when you're dealing with Tommy John and the rise that he had last year, you can take it a lot of different ways. But a few days after I saw him standing off to the side of the Major League game on Field 1 where Nady Eovaldi was throwing somebody that he looks up to, and had a notebook out and was taking notes and just studying like different pitch sequences, looking at hitters, just trying to absorb information and soak up as much as he can, and learn and take the most of an opportunity where he could have easily been. We don't require him to do anything. He could have been sitting over at the Village next door and doing whatever he wanted to do in his room, but took the opportunity to be around his teammates and just kind of absorb as much information as possible. And, it speaks volumes to Kip Fagg and his staff, the things that they identified at Miami of the voracious, open-minded learners that are going to get better once they get in our system. So, obviously, some adversity he's going to have to deal with, and, it's heartbreak to lose a player like that, but he's going to come out of this better, stronger, mentally more equipped for the major league challenges once we get him back on a mound.
Yeah. So got to get the major league roster set, and that'll have a trickle down to the AAA rotation. But who do you expect to kind of head that rotation at AAA? A lot of names out there. A guy I love is Ryan Garcia, and he did so well last year at AAA. Where do you see that? How do you see that shaking out?
Well, I feel like that's a backdoor way of trying to figure out what the major league rotation is. I certainly think there's going to be a trickle-down effect. So my right way of answering that would be like, Jeff, you're correct. Ryan Garcia will be in the rotation, and the rest will to be determined.
Yes.
Yeah. No, yeah. He's a good one. What did you see from him? I mean, he got so much better last year at AAA. And not that he was, he started to click at AA, and then it really took off at AAA.
It did. I mean, I don't know exactly what we would pin that on, other than I know there's some conversations we're having with Ryan, and he's had a lengthy, unfortunate instances and circumstances in terms of the injury stuff that's happened to him. So I know a conversation was had about, this is an opportunity to kind of just take it and run with it and see what happens. I did not have that conversation with him. A few others did, and to his credit, he really seized that opportunity. And we saw a slight bump in his velocity and some power to his pitches and the way that he went about it. And, I also don't know this to be a fact, but I do think that there is a difference between the way that the ball flight plays between AAA and AA with the use of the major league ball versus the AA ball, and certain pitchers' arsenals will benefit from that ball relative to others, and there could be a slight boost with that. But I think for him, it's feeling healthy and just feeling confident to go out there and compete and give his best stuff and not really worry about the injury stuff, which hopefully continues to be in the distant rearview mirror for him.
Yeah, he's also an under the radar guy. I mean, this was a Pac-12 pitcher of the year when he was drafted. He was injured coming out. He's had the injuries. He's kind of flown under everyone's radar. And then he comes out last year and he kind of starts seeing what we saw coming out of UCLA. That guy right there, I mean, that's just, you talk about depth in an organization. This is a Pac-12, and we're not even talking about him at the big league level right now, but boy, that's a guy who's got a big league arm.
Yeah, and then to add to that, John, he was Pac-12 pitcher of the year, but he was a shortstop in high school. He didn't pitch until he got to college, really. And so, between winning the Pac-12 pitcher of the year and then also some of the injury stuff, he doesn't have a whole lot of innings, and so he's still learning his craft. And you look at the age, regardless of what that is, the experience level relative to other pitchers at that age is a little bit less. So we think that he can continue to get better and better. And, as long as he's staying healthy and out there, our guess is that he's going to improve further from this point. So excited about him and his progression, and we'll see where it goes this year.
I think I'm going to throw Dane Acker onto the rotation, but although you guys did our toying with him as a reliever. You saw it play up well for Frisco.
Yeah, we'll see with Dane in terms of the role. And we've talked about both. There's merits to both, and I think he had a healthy year last year, and acquitted himself quite well and performed at a high level. And at this point, with Dane, having been Rule 5 eligible, he was not selected last offseason. We want to balance what is best for him and his career, and ultimately helping the major league team. And we think it could come really quick if we put him in a relief role. It was a limited sample last year, but strikeout rate jumped pretty big. The walk rate suppressed, and the stuff kind of jumped to another level. So if we see more of that, I think it's going to be hard for us to stretch him out as a starter, knowing that he is capable of that, but his best path to helping the Texas Rangers in 2025 might be a more limited role.
Gotcha. Another guy who impressed, though he didn't get to pitch a lot early on, was Cole Drake, who just sailed through the organization last year. A kid from North Texas, so we like that. Big left-hander. It just seems like everybody I talked to about, hey, who do you like? Cole Drake was one of the first guys mentioned.
Yeah, you can include me in that group. Cole is like a poster boy for combination of taking advantage of opportunity and resources and really working on your craft. And like the trajectory and how far he's come is kudos to him and the work that he's put in to get to this point. I think it speaks volumes to his drive and his determination. And he had an incredible year last year and deserved every bit of it. And I think he learned what that dedication, what it can do for you in your career. And I think he's, taking it to another level. And it's unfortunate that he didn't get a pitch more in the major league environment. That being said, it wouldn't shock me if he continues his trajectory and he's a factor for us in 2025, just given the way that he goes about it, the way that his pitches play, how he continues to evolve. He's a strike thrower. He's fearless. I think Cole has got a very bright future, and I think the Texas Ranger fans could see him in the near future.
Yeah. I'll throw Robbie Alstrom in that group. Obviously a reliever, but my gosh, when you have Bruce Bochy and Mike Maddox singing your praises, that'll work. I mean, that's pretty good. If he can go out and replicate what he's done this spring, a little bit different lefty. The Jose Trevino trade, and Trevino just signed a 3-year extension today. So,
good.
Yeah, I think you guys are in good shape with your left-handed arsenal down there, whether it be starters or relievers. Because we haven't even talked about Jake Latz and our guy Walt Pennington.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie is, kudos to Mike Parnell and the pro scouting staff for that acquisition at the time. The starter converted to reliever for us, but somebody that didn't have that velocity or that stuff when we initially got him. And he's like Cole Drake, he's put in the work and he's taking it to another level. And there's been multiple times this spring training where I've gone down in the coach's room on the major league side, and that's who they want to talk about. So kudos to Robbie for the way that he's gone about it and put himself on the map. It's been a good spring for him.
Yeah. I know you guys don't put a lot of weight into the organizational rankings. Where do you? I think they're off. I think you guys should be higher. You have big talent. I mean, we haven't even talked about Sebastian Walcott yet. So you have this huge talent at the top, three according to them, top 100 guys. Then you have a guy like Santos who goes out and pitches 3 perfect innings at the breakout game. How do you guys feel about this system, and where do you think the strength lies?
I mean, we feel really good about it. And you're right. We don't pay a ton of attention to that. I think there's a lot of factors that can go into it, and it's outside of our control. We're going to control what we can control. We've got great players in the system right now. We feel like the results will speak for themselves when the time comes. We're graduating a lot of players to the major leagues that are having success, and we think we're going to continue to to graduate more. In terms of the strength of the system, I think our strength is always the same thing, in that we're really well balanced. There really isn't an area that we would say that we're deficient in. Up the middle talent, I think we've got some depth there and some star power there. On the pitching side, maybe it's not the same marquee names with the guys that are in the big leagues right now that were our top draft picks, but I think pitching comes from everywhere. Interesting stat in our spring breakout game. where we threw, I believe, 7 pitchers pitched in that game. It's an all-star game for the organization. A few of our pitchers in our system were in the major leagues and may ultimately stick there. But of the pitchers that pitched in our all-star game this spring, their combined signing bonuses were less than $725,000. So, and I say that with a little bit, I think like if the industry, we probably should have given all of them more based off the way that they've thrown, but it is what it is. And you take what you can get when you sign and you get in the system, and they've all gotten a lot better. And I think we feel pretty confident about, being able to replicate that. Kip and his group, as I mentioned earlier, like the continuity between the scouting and player development department is in a really great spot right now. And, the organization is going to continue to do our very best to pump, produce players of this caliber. And we feel like this has been, for me, the spring of surprises in terms of, positive surprises, where I walk on the backfields and, the pitchers in particular, guys that are not household names that have really, really caught people's eyes. And it seems like every single day I get a scout or I get a media member or somebody asking me about somebody that I know a little bit about and I need to do more work because they've leveled up and they've gotten significantly better. And that's encouraging and exciting to see.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about position players really, but, Caden Scarborough, pitcher, David Davalillo, Paul Bonzagni. I don't want to leave anybody out, but it seems like if you're trying to develop a starting pitcher for the major leagues, you guys have a pretty good starting point, because some guys that have big arms and performed so well last year. It just seems like, the search for homegrown rotation help. Obviously, we know the names at the top, but don't sleep on these guys at the bottom at all. No, I think that's what they're kind of talking about there.
Yeah, I think you hit on a few of them. Cole Drake, you mentioned earlier, we talked about. I think others like Josh Stephen is, he pitched in the breakout game. He's been up to 96, 97 this spring, 5 pitches, a diverse mix. He can be a strike thrower. Mitch Bratt's been, touching 94, 95, I think maybe 96 here. Like, the velocity's up. He's put in the work. He's a strike thrower in Double-A. I think kudos to Jordan Teagues and Sam Needorf, John Goebel, and all of our pitching coaches in our performance department for, working with these guys and helping them get to another level, and them, taking that challenge and really leveling up. And, it's exciting to be back there and see these guys. And, our anticipation and our hope is that, some of these guys kick through the door. Santos, Teodo, these guys are knocking on the door right now. We got Rocker Leiter up there. Cody Bradford was a, graduate of the program. Cole Reagan's before that. It's like, hopefully this wave is coming, and our goal is to build it as large as possible and make sure it overwhelms. And we have more options than we know what to do with. And Boach and his staff can deploy them however they'd like. But, that's our goal right now, is to produce as much talent as possible.
I guess on my second trip when John was with me, I was standing back watching some pitchers pitch, and then saw Paulino Santana come by. Mm-hmm. And I could never grow a beard as good as he has right now at age 18. I mean, this guy's a man at 18. And what course do you see for him? I know he's still so young, but it seems like he might be ready to take a jump.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb, Jeff, and say that you also can't hit a baseball like Paulino Santana can.
I've got a better chance at the baseball than the beard. All right, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, no, he's actually had an impressive offseason. He leaned out. He's running better. He's moving better. We gave him some minor swing adjustments, more stance adjustments going into the offseason to try to unlock a little bit more of his natural raw power. He had a little bit of a wider base and was more contact oriented, sees the ball extremely strike zone, which is a foundational principle that we look for in our hitters. But to his credit, he's revved up the engine this offseason. He's moving better, and I actually think that he's kind of opened some eyes, mine included, in terms of his ability to stick in center field a little bit longer, just with the way that he's moving and running out there. So we'll see where it goes. Obviously we're in the middle of games here in spring training, and the early indications and signs are pretty positive. So excited to see the season that he has ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm also excited about Anthony Gutierrez, who's been dealing with some bad luck, but seems like he's in a good spot now. He
is. I mean, finally, it feels like, knock on wood, healthy. He's dealt with ankle, foot, shoulder, some other stuff that, has kind of held him back a little bit. But shout out to the rehab department and Anthony. He was here all offseason. He really got after it. He's about 215 pounds right now, where he was usually around 200 last year. Probably one of the fastest runners we have in our organization. I think he stole 39 or 40 bases last year in a limited sample. The impact with the bat, we think, is on the come. He's moving better. The force numbers are in a really good spot. Driving the baseball early in spring has really been somebody that's come up a lot. He's now completely fluent in English. He took the offseason and opportunity while he was here to polish his English skills. And, at 20 years old, it's easy to lose sight of, the career and kind of what happened with the injuries. But we think he's got as much potential and ceiling as, quite frankly, anybody we have in the organization if he can put it all together. And this is the year for him to put it all together. And, it's a results-based game, and we're expecting to see performance this year. And I think he's expectant of himself. And I think it could be a very fun year and a very interesting prospect to follow for Texas Ranger fans out there.
Yeah. I still think this is one of the more stunning things about the system is Sebastian Walcott turned 19 last week.
Pretty remarkable.
He's remarkable.
I got a boy his age, and that's what just wears. It's just crazy to think that my son's that age, and it's like, and Sebastian's such a sweet kid. And he's gotten bigger. Hey, I noticed that immediately. He's definitely gotten a little thicker, which comes with a little bit of maturity too. But he said he's getting some calories. He's starting to hit the calories for sure.
It's hard to believe, really, that he played he played all of his major league camp experience at age 18, and performed quite well. And just the growth that he continues to show, the maturity's always been there from a very early age, going back to knowing him since he was 12, 13 years old. He's just always been a more mature kid relative to others, and he's so steadfast and determined in what he ultimately wants to accomplish, and nothing's going to get into his way. And he's driven like the great ones, and I'm excited to see where he takes it. He keeps getting better and better. I think when we initially signed him, there was a lot of questions about whether or not he would stick at shortstop, and he continues to answer those questions. And, quite frankly, the bat may arrive before the defense, and he may have to play a different position. But in terms of his ability to play that position, we think he's more capable than ever. Improved his approach in a variety of ways over the years. We've challenged him with a lot of different things, and love the kid, love the person, and also am enamored by the talent when we get to watch it. And I think he's an exciting one and somebody that I think we're going to have an opportunity to watch for many years to come in a Texas Rangers uniform. So,
all right, well, that's a good way to close it out, John. Go top prospect,
Let me ask this, though, one fun one. I always like to do a fun one. John Daniels did this when he was GM for me, and so did Chris Young. You guys are so close to the vest. You never let on what you're doing, whether, I don't want to talk about negotiations with free agents. That's its hold down. But you got Jake Burger this offseason. It was a great trade you guys made doing that. I think people like me, nerds that like to follow this, it's over with now. It was a great trade. How does that fall into place? Did you guys, I know you guys saw something in Jake. You want to kind of take us through. You called the Marlins. Hey, would you even consider it? Kind of what goes on there, and how long did it take? Was it like we both showed interest quick, and then all of a sudden within a day we're like, let's do this?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussions that go into it. I actually had the opportunity to negotiate that one with a former Ranger, Vinish Kenthan, who is now with the Marlins. So we were going back and forth, and Vinish knows our system and knows the way that we go about it. But that really started, at our pro personnel meetings to launch the off season, and just trying to identify some areas of the roster that we wanted to upgrade, and power department being one of them, and versus fastballs being another. And then you kind of whittle the list down objectively to a group of players that fit that. And then you listen to our scouts talk about the person and the personality and who you're bringing into this clubhouse and then adding this team. And we had the good fortunes of having his former manager, Skip Schumacher, and then Pipe Urrieta, who's now our bench coach, who had been with them, talk about the person and the personality and how he'd fit. And the more we had those conversations, the more we realized how perfect of a fit Jake was. So we pick up the phone, we express interest in him and a couple other players on their team, and
Sure.
they're willing to engage there. And like you start to exchange names back and forth. Yes, we would. No, we wouldn't. Yes, we would. No, we wouldn't. You whittle that down, and you get to the point where you got to make a decision on would we do this deal or would we not. And I want to give a quick shout out to the international department. My biases aside, this is the second time we've pulled off a trade for what we believe will be an all-star level first baseman for 3 international players. First one was Nate Lowe. That one worked out well. And hopefully Jake Berger will be the next one. But it's painful to give up those players, Maximo O'Brien and Echedri. They brought a lot to this organization. Were great players that got better. But, any chance you get opportunity to get somebody, Jake's personality and his caliber as a player and somebody we believe can hit, 35, 40 home runs in a Texas Ranger uniform, you got to jump at that opportunity. So that was the Cliff Notes version of how it all come together. That's summarizing, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 hours of work and putting it into about a 5-minute story. So, it's what we do. I absolutely love that aspect of the job. I love the negotiation with other clubs. I love the back and forth. I love the hard decisions. And, at the end of the day, CY says it all the time, our jobs are to put the best team possible to win World Series and championships. We think Jake's going to bring that here to Texas. So.
Well, that's what makes it fun. You're never going to say something to us when you're trying to acquire someone like that. But after the fact, it's fun to hear that. Listen, it's great to do that. And plus, like you said, you hate to lose those players. But if you want to acquire good players, other teams aren't stupid. They want good players too. And luckily, y'all had them to get the deal done. And that's why those players played themselves into a position that they could be used to acquire talent because they find them talented. That's exactly. What the good deals work for both sides. Like you said today, Trevino signed his extension. That was a good move. But look at Robbie Alstrom, who looks like he's going to help this team on the big league. You can't argue on both sides. Ross, listen, Jeff, nothing else for you?
No, I'll see you shortly. I'm a pitching wedge away, Ross. If you want to come on by, pal.
You're actually. I'm looking at it. You're more of a 9-iron for me away, but
okay. I'm a big hitter. Like
Guys, listen.
Long.
That's going to be it for us. That's going to wind it down. Ross, thanks so much for coming on and joining us. I mean, look, you've got a busy job. The fact that you take time to do this, I know you went in studio for the Daily Show and then come on with us like you've done every year. We appreciate it. Great to come on again. We'll see you next week when you get back here. We'll obviously see you around the ballpark. Guys, we're going to wind it down for Jeff Wilson, Ross Fenstermaker. I'm John Moore. And until next week, guys, we'll see you at the yard.